Let me start by warmly welcoming you, Mr. Stoltenberg, Secretary General, for having accepted our invitation to address the Conference of Presidents. As we discussed, this is the first time that you are addressing the group of political leaders in a very informal but also in an exchange of information format on this day. Very important after very few difficult weeks, but which have shown EU and Atlantic unity. Your decisions over the past few days earlier this week in Ramstein are very welcome. We have shared security challenges and aims, and I hope that this cooperation and coordination between our institution and your organization will continue to grow. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam President Metsola. It's good to see you, great to be here. I have been in the European Parliament many times, but this is the first time I meet with this exclusive group of presidents of the different political parties. I look forward to meeting all of them, and especially now as we see that the European Union and NATO we stand together in solidarity with Ukraine. The European Union has imposed unprecedented sanctions, is providing economic support to Ukraine. NATO allies have also stepped up their support to Ukraine, and up to date, NATO allies have pledged and provided at least $8 billion in military support to Ukraine, and we see the importance of further stepping up our support to Ukraine. So NATO-EU cooperation has always been important, but especially now when our core values, democracy, the rule of law, the respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity is challenged by the brutal Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's even more important that the European Union and NATO stands together. So thank you so much.
Thank you. There is time for a couple of questions. Yes, please, ZDF there.
Florian Neuhan, ZDF. First question to President Metsola. Since this is the first time you invite Mr. Stoltenberg to the Conference of Presidents, what is your personal message to him, and what do you expect from NATO, as also with your background of being in Kiev a couple of weeks ago? And a question to you, Secretary General. There are two states, partner states of NATO, Sweden and Finland, who might join the NATO. How fast would this go? How fast would the alliance take in those new members if they want to join? Thank you.
Well, first of all, this will be a very open and frank exchange with questions ranging from all the leaders of the political groups, but which also will reflect the unprecedented unity that we have seen in this Parliament since the 24th of February and the brutal invasion by Russia of Ukraine. This Parliament, in all its resolutions, has been resolute, and following on also from my discussions with President Zelensky just over 3 weeks ago, that there was need for more military support, that there was need for more effective assistance to Ukraine. That is something that we have called for. We will continue to call for further sanctions, and we will continue to call for the enforcement of the current packages of sanctions in a better way and more effective way. This we will continue also to discuss in Strasbourg next week. But in our case, this Parliament will continue to build on the momentum of this, again, unprecedented coordination that we have, which is extremely important because we share the fundamental values and we share our defense, if you can say that, of Ukraine's right to defend itself.
It is, of course, for Finland and Sweden to decide whether they would like to apply for membership in NATO or not. But if they decide to apply, Finland and Sweden will be welcomed with open arms to NATO. Finland and Sweden are our closest partners. They are strong, mature democracies, EU members, and we have worked with Finland and Sweden for many years. We know that their armed forces meet NATO standards, are interoperable with NATO forces. We train together, we exercise together, and we have also worked together with Finland and Sweden in many different missions and operations. So if they apply, they will be welcomed, and I also expect the process to be quick and that they can then join NATO after the formal process has been finalized.
The next question there, please. Yes.
Yes, Victor Numelin from the Swedish news agency TT. In Sweden and Finland, there's a big discussion on what kind of guarantees NATO can give Sweden and Finland during the negotiation, before becoming members, if applying. What kind of help and how fast would that possible help go? And for the President, if Sweden and Finland joins, the European Union will be almost completely inside NATO, except for 4 countries. How do you see this? What is that having for consequences?
The reality is that Finland and Sweden are already very close to NATO, and we work together, we operate together, we exercise together. And as soon as we take the decision to invite them, that will send a strong political message that the security of Finland and Sweden matters for all NATO allies. And then I'm also certain that we will be able to find arrangements for that interim period between Finland and Sweden applies and until the formal ratification is finalized in all 30 parliaments. So I'm confident that there are ways to bridge that interim period in a way which is good enough and works for both Finland and Sweden.
In these days in the European Parliament, we're also discussing how we can truly establish a proper defense union. This has long been called for. This would mean also that member states can feel secure. We have Article 42.7 of the treaty that would cover also those members that are not members of NATO. But again, here we are talking about an alliance and shared aims and core values. And when we look at the discussion that is taking place in Finland and in Sweden and the long-term alliance and partnership with NATO, but also in terms of military relevance and security that could be offered also in the Baltic and Northern Europe area. That is something also that in Europe and in the European Union we can look at in terms of even further integration of mutual protection.
And the last question there, please.
So much to discuss relationship with partners, especially with Georgia and Moldova, as they are also under pressure from Russia. And Madam President, what is your personal message to Georgian people as we are waiting in June for the political decision to receive candidate status of this organization? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for this question. This Parliament has always welcomed any country that looks to Europe as its home, that should be the step that is taken. So we were the institution to welcome the application from all 3 countries. We understand the difficulties and the challenges and the threats that those countries are under. In fact, we have invited President Maia Sandu to address the European Parliament in a forthcoming plenary session, and she has accepted that invitation. And we are also in constant contact with our Georgian partners and also representatives of the Georgian Parliament in order to make sure that when that step happens that you mentioned, we are ready to make our commitment, and this Parliament has never shied away from it.
I can just add that, of course, the brutal invasion of Ukraine demonstrates the need for NATO to provide support to those countries in Europe that are not members of NATO, neither members of the European Union, as Moldova and Georgia. And this is about practical support, it's about political support, and Georgia is a very highly valued partner, and also in close cooperation with the European Union. We are looking into what we can do more to work even closer with our close partners in the eastern part of Europe. Let me also add to the question about Finland and Sweden that I actually speak to the Finnish president later on today, and I expect that we will both address the issue of a potential Finnish application for NATO membership, but also the need to find arrangements in this interim period so there is no uncertainty about Finland and Sweden's right to choose their own path. Because this is fundamentally about the right of every nation in Europe to decide its own future. So when Russia tries in a way to threaten, to intimidate Finland and Sweden from not applying, it just demonstrates how Russia is not respecting the basic right of every nation to choose its own path. So we are in dialogue with Finland and Sweden, and it's their decision. But if they decide to apply, Finland and Sweden will be warmly welcomed and expect the process to go quickly.
Thank you very much.